Hey guys, Brian here, and E3 is finally here, and I'm excited to give you all reactions to all of the press conferences today. But first, let's talk about last night's press conference, and that was Bethesda's very first press conference. And they really did set the bar high for the rest of the guys. They did a great job for their first time, and I was very surprised with some of the stuff that they showed off. And they opened with Doom, and they spent nearly 25 minutes with Doom, honestly, and I wasn't bored for any of those 25 minutes. Even though it did look a little repetitive, it still looked amazing. And it's very fast-paced, gory. I do recommend you look at some of the footage that's probably up by now, showing off this new Doom. They started off in this area of the game that's a part of the story, and whoever was playing it was obviously really good, or they had a really low, easy difficulty on it to be able to blast through all these guys the way they did. There's crazy amounts of dismemberment. They had a super shotgun that whenever it would shoot, it would like blow these demons in half, and they had a chainsaw that would just tear into dudes. It seemed like there was ways to where you could weaken enemies, and they would turn like a yellowish or sometimes a bluish color, and then you could take them down with like an extremely gruesome melee attack. Like there was one guy who got, it looked like his heart ripped out and then thrown in his mouth, and there was so many crazy stuff like that, so much crazy stuff like that. And there were two demos that they showed off actually of Doom, and the first one, at the very end of the demo, I think this was scripted in a way, but a demon actually ended up jumping on top of you and ripping both of your arms off and just smacking you in the face with it. I thought that was pretty funny, and it was absolutely gory. Another part in that first demo that I thought was pretty cool, but also shows how gross and gory the game is there's a certain part of the game in this demo where you had to get a handprint to open a door. So you find this holographic tape which shows the guy getting dragged off by a demon and killed. So you follow that trail and find the guy, and you just rip his arm off and use his hand to open the door. It was really gross and really cool. And other than that, like I said, very fast-paced. And then they had their multiplayer, which looked very much similar to like Unreal Tournament's multiplayer. It was very arena-based, shooter-like, fast-paced, verticality, jumping around, shooting people with rocket launchers. It reminded me so much of back in the day playing on Unreal Tournament 2000, but just so much more beautiful. But the surprising thing that they showed off that I really liked was they called it Doom Snap Map. And I wrote down here in my notes that it is Doom meets Little Big Planet. And what I mean by that, basically, is that it's the same. You build these levels, you make custom levels, custom game modes, and you can set everything the way you want it, and then share the levels just like that. And it reminded me very much of Little Big Planet, but obviously a lot more dark, gory, and bloody than Little Big Planet, obviously. And other than that, they just talked. They said it's going to be spring 2016, next-gen systems and PC. No Wii U, obviously, and there was no Wii U love at all for Bethesda as a whole, which is not surprising, being that Nintendo is still behind on letting third parties in. But other than that, they talked a little bit about their Bethesda Net. Going forward, it's the heart of their games going forward. They said they started it with Elder Scrolls Online, and then they went to Battle Cry, which they didn't show a lot of, but it looks sort of Team Fortress-esque in a way, but like I said, they didn't show a lot of it, and they said that worldwide beta signups are opening right now, and that is coming later this year. And that was pretty much everything from Battlecry. And then Arcane Studios came out, and they talked a little bit about Dishonored, and they thanked their fans, which I thought was really cool. And then they showed off a CG trailer of Dishonored 2, and it really looked good. And in doing this, they announced that you can play as both a male and female protagonist, and they showed off the female in the CG trailer, and she has some badass moves, and I'm actually really excited to play as her, honestly. And they did say that the male and female have different powers and abilities, so it's not just a reskin and of the same character. They do have different abilities, but they didn't go too much into Dishonored, other than saying that it's going to be for next gen and PC again. And then they closed with talking about Dishonored Definitive Edition. Dishonored is coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and they closed with that, and they said that's coming out later this fall. Really, really good. Then they talked a little bit about Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Edition, which just came out a few days ago, and they didn't talk too much in depth with it. They just showed off new stuff that they're hoping to come out this year. But it looked really interesting, and I might end up picking that game up and seeing what it's all about. Other than that, they talked about Elder Scrolls Legends, which is a card game that seems to be their answer to Hearthstone or maybe Magic the Gathering, and they said that's going to be free to play for PC and iPad, and they didn't say much else about that. And then they came out and they were like, alright, that's the end of the press conference, sorry about it, that's all we got. And there were certain people that were like booing and just laughing, and they were like, oh yeah, we got this Fallout 4 thing to show off, that's right. And the biggest news for everybody obviously was Fallout 4, and boy did they show it off. The very beginning was kind of the showing off of it was kind of not confusing, but just weird that they started that way. They showed off a lot of the art, and then they actually went into the game. And it kind of confirmed what I was talking about last week, that it starts off in pre-Great War, and then 200 years later your character walks out of the vault. And it's the same character, so there has to be some sort of cryogenic freezing or something going on, because I don't understand how anybody could live 200 years. So there might be some sort of cryogenic freezing going on there. The character building was really cool. It's very dynamic in a way that there's not all these menus showing you, 1 to 100, how long do you want your nose to get, or anything like that. You're in a mirror, and they show a man and a woman, presumably they're married, and you can pick to play as either or, the man or the woman, and you just click on the features like the nose, like I said, and change it on the fly right there. And they showed off like the facial hair aspect, skin color, all these different features that are just right there with no real menus showing you. You just click on the part you want to change and then change it, which I thought was really cool, really innovative. It's the first time I've ever seen something like that. And they confirmed it's going to be in Boston, which was pretty obvious to anybody who watched the trailer last week. And they had dynamic dialogue. You can walk away at any time. You can shoot the person in the face at any time. You can do the game in first or third person. I believe they confirmed at any time. They had a new Pit-Boy that they showed off. They showed off that In the collector's edition, you get a Pip-Boy accessory that looks exactly like it, and you can put your phone in it, and they made a Pip-Boy app, which in real time you can scroll through stuff and have like a second screen experience with Fallout 4 with your actual Pip-Boy app, or if you so choose to wear the whole thing and scroll through to look like a badass, you can do that too. The dog, you can give certain commands, he can go get stuff for you, and stuff of that nature. They showed off a new layered armor system, so, you know, arm armor, mid-body armor, leg armor, and all that stuff. They had game tapes for the Pip-Boy, and they showed off, like one of the games they showed off, the guy playing on his Pip-Boy looked very much like Donkey Kong and all these other old school games. It was really cool. They announced Fallout Shelter, which is a app that's available now, and it's on both iOS and Android, and it's pretty much just this little game where you go out and get more survivors and collect resources and build your shelter. It looks kind of XCOM-ish, but it looks really cool, and it's just something that they made, and they said it's free to play. You don't have to spend any money on it if you don't want to, but if you do, we have these lunch boxes that you can buy, and they drop items and stuff like that, which you do get lunch boxes without having to buy them, but if you want more items, then you can buy the lunch boxes. Other than that, the really cool thing I saw about this game was the settlement building. They talked a little bit about how in Fallout 3 there was all these items that you picked up and they didn't really do much for you. And in this one, everything that you pick up you can help build a settlement with. You can break down buildings and build them back up better. You know, they showed off like you can use glue or tape for like adhesive, and old tires and a beach ball for rubber, and all these different things. You can make a generator, a farming plot, all these things to build these settlements. All this is completely optional in the game, but if you so do choose to play it, you can build these giant settlements and have these defensive weapons and turrets in it, and it looks really awesome. It looks like a whole nother game inside the game. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was the amount of weapons and weapon mods that they have. And they said they have over 50 base weapons and 700 weapon mods, which is completely crazy to think that they have so many weapons and mods. And like everything looks really cool about it. And they said you can modify your power armor, make that better. It seems like everything can be customized the way you choose and the way you want to play it. They did show off a new VAT system, which did look very reminiscent of 3, but almost better. And other than that, they announced the date, which is the other big thing, coming out November 10th this year, which some people were expecting it. Other people got blown away by it. I was pretty sure that it was going to come out this year, as much as some other forms of media were hinting at it. The last thing that I wrote down here about the conference was Tango Gameworks did not come out at any time, and I think it's a little too early for them to show off anything. They just did the DLC for Evil Within, and I don't think it's quite time for them to announce a sequel or another horror game they might be working on. But other than that, that was the entire press conference. I was very interested in seeing this. Doom looks awesome. Battlecry looks like it has some promise to it. Dishonored 2 is making me really want to play the first Dishonored. I don't know. I have it on PlayStation Plus on my PS3, but I might just have to pick up the PS4 version when it comes out later this fall. And obviously Fallout 4 looks amazing, and I really think that settlement building is really awesome. It's just so in-depth by all the buildings and stuff that you can create. And they did say that that was in certain parts of the game, so I doubt every single inch of the game you can just break down and build up. It seems like that's only in certain, like, maybe beat up settlements that you find throughout the game. But other than that, that's the Bethesda press conference. It was really awesome. I think they set the bar really high for the rest of the guys, and that's my reactions. Stay tuned later today for my Microsoft press conference reactions, and then even later in the day for the Sony, and then there in between Microsoft and Sony, there's of course EA and Ubisoft. I'm going to be doing a reactions video for each and every single one of the press conferences. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, like it, subscribe to the show, share it with your friends. I'm at Ryan Poteet on Twitter, and I'm going to go get a haircut and then come back to do more videos about the press conferences. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in a few hours.